Hi friend, today I'm going to share with you the 2 reasons I don't read aloud. Welcome to Born for Homeschool. My name is Rachel Bourne. My husband and I have 4 kids and I homeschool the oldest 3. And so I have a 1st grader, a 3rd grader, and a 6th grader this year. So we have a busy homeschool here. Today I wanted to share with you 2 of the reasons I don't read aloud. And this is not a complete oxymoron from my previous video where I shared with you all of the research and information that I've learned and the things that I am implementing in our homeschool to make sure that we're getting read aloud time and the importance of that. And so if you haven't seen that video, check that out. I share all the things that I've been learning as I've researched reading aloud and just the important part it plays in the life of a child and in the development of a child. So I'll put a link in the description box below if you're interested in watching that video, because that's definitely the part 1 to this video. So today I'm going to dive into talking about 2 reasons I don't read aloud to my kids. And when I'm not reading aloud to my kids and I'm choosing for them to listen to an audiobook, I'm going to share with you some of our favorite audiobooks and how we incorporate that into our lives. So the first reason I don't read aloud is that I'm not available. There are times when I'm just not available to read. And so when that happens, I choose an audiobook that they can be listening to, or that we can all be listening to as I am doing different things. So one of the things that I do while we listen to audiobooks is I am eating. So sometimes we have our history lessons on audio. And so there are some days I am reading the history book with them and just enjoying that. But there are some days that I use the audiobook to listen to the history lesson as we're eating either lunch, sometimes dinner. So that is one of the ways that I kind of clone myself, in that I have someone else do the reading while I'm doing something else, while we're all doing something else together. Another time we're listening to audiobooks is when I'm driving. So we found one of our absolute favorite audiobooks as a family because we were heading out for a trip and I wanted to grab an audiobook that we could listen to together. And I stumbled across the book Leroy Ninker Saddles Up, written by Kate DiCamillo. And let me tell you, it was so much fun, especially for my then 4-year-old, I believe, son. He loved all things cowboy, and it was just a wonderful, heartwarming story, and we all just so enjoyed the audiobook of Leroy Ninker Saddles Up. So all of these things that I mentioned, I will leave a link for in the description box below if you want to check out those. But most of these audiobooks we get from our library. So it's not that we're going out and buying all of these things. Some of our favorites we have here for our personal library, but most of these we just simply request from our local library. Another time that we listen to audiobooks is a lot of times when I'm doing chores. So laundry or dishes. It's something that we can work at together and yet still be listening to stories together. And so that's a really fun time to be enjoying stories, but it's not a time that I can necessarily sit and just read the story with the kids. So another time that we choose to use audiobooks is when I need a break. So there's a lot of reading that happens throughout our homeschool. There's math lessons and language arts lessons and history and science. Sometimes the history is farmed out to audiobook. Just a read aloud time. Sometimes I just need a break from reading. And so when those days when I just need a break from reading, we get an audiobook that we can listen to. And we are currently listening through Anne of Green Gables, which is so beautiful and such a wonderful story to share together. And yet it's giving me a break from reading for those 9+ hours. There are some times that it's really helpful to have someone else doing the reading. So the second reason I don't read aloud is when it actually adds to the story for me not to be the one doing the reading. And the first example that popped into my head for this was reading The Secret Garden for my kids. I wanted to share the story of The Secret Garden with my children, and so at the time I didn't own the book. I now own it, but at the time I went to the library and got the book from the library. And I brought it home and I started reading it myself. It had been years since I'd read it, and so I started reading it myself. And as I was reading it, I was realizing how difficult it was going to be for me to read the Yorkshire English accent for my kids to understand and follow the story. And so I immediately got on our library website, and since they had an audiobook of The Secret Garden, I reserved it and went and picked it up. And my children we all absolutely loved the story of The Secret Garden. And I think some of that affinity for the story and connection with the story was due to the fact that their mother was not struggling to read the Yorkshire accent throughout the whole story. So sometimes there might be reasons to get the audiobook. If there are books that have difficult pronunciation, or you're not sure of pronunciation for large portions of the book or names or something like that, then it might be helpful to get an audiobook to share the story. So another way that it might enhance the story to have it read by someone else would be if it's read by the author. My kids and I listened to Charlotte's Web read by E.B. White, and it was just a wonderful experience. It was so wonderful to listen to E.B. White just share the story that he wrote. Having it read by the author also just gives an extra depth. We are currently listening to Sarah Palina's Hall, which is read by Glenn Close. Of course, she is a professional actress, and she brings to life Sarah Palina's Hall in the movie, and so that is just a really added benefit to hearing an audiobook done by a professional, and it's just a sweet way to share the story together, and it frees me up to be doing other things whenever we are sharing in a story like that, and it's done so well by someone else. Another time that we found it to really add to a story was when we came across the Chronicles of Narnia, which was produced by Focus on the Family's radio theater. So it's not the books, it's not someone reading the Chronicles of Narnia books, it's an actual theater drama, radio drama of the books. And so it's not the same thing as an unabridged reading. So don't go into it expecting that. But it is a wonderful way to experience the stories of Narnia. And my children from very, very small have enjoyed the stories of Narnia, beginning with listening to the radio drama of it produced by Focus on the Family. So that has been a really sweet way to share a story together. We live about 3.5 hours from my husband's family, and so being able to listen to the Chronicles of Narnia all the way there and back has been a really wonderful thing. So if you found this video to be encouraging and helpful, please hit the like button. And if you're not a subscriber here at Born for Homeschool, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that our new videos every Monday are dropped in your feed. Thanks so much for watching today, and I will see you again in next week's video.